Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the virtual breakfast sessions. I'm Larry Sashin. Today we have a special virtual breakfast session. It will be the first induction of our class of 2023 into the virtual breakfast session Hall of Fame. Uh, Before we start, why don't we go around the room and everybody introduce yourself? Peter, why don't you start?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Peter Herrera. I'm the founder and president and head bottle washer of New York Hospitality Group. We are a local Westchester, New York hospitality company. One restaurant, one barbecue catering company, one catering company, and a couple on-premise catering companies. And one of the coolest jobs I've ever had, we now work in the last 10 years for a hospital. We have 3 semi-organic cafes in White Plains Hospital, Montefiore. So it's fun. It keeps us busy, as we all know.
Thank you, Peter. Joyce.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I just celebrated 5 years, my anniversary of working with Total Food Service. I help Fred in a number of ways. I write a column that covers what we call trend talk, interviewing chefs, restaurateurs, talking about topics that are of interest to our readers. I also, during the pandemic, we launched a culture page, which is called Media Corner, and we provide the opportunity to share what to read, what to watch, and what to listen to. And we've had such a wonderful response to that, and we're really thankful we're able to share all the media that comes in the way of cookbooks and podcasts and movies that are out there, as well as other books that talk about the industry. And then I am the news editor for the Scoop news column. So I'm scouring daily information about the food service industry and things, topics that affect education, and professional life, and other things about the community that they need to know. And before that, I worked with Richard Grousman for 27 years, helped him launch the Careers Through Culinary Arts program. And through that opportunity, I was able to meet a lot of people in the industry and support mentoring, education, scholarships, training, and professional development, school to work program.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Joyce. And a product of that program and an introduction through Joyce, Yvonne Lemoine.
You took the first words out of my introduction, right out of my mouth. So to dovetail, to dovetail from Joyce, I am a product of CCAP, Careers Through Culinary Arts program. I was raised in Queens and introduced to this program in high school, which led me to my love and now career as a chef. My wife and I own My Kitchen. It's a event space in Forest Hills, Queens, and this spring we'll be opening the Hills restaurant as well.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Fred, say hello.
Good morning, I'm Fred Clashman. I'm the editor and publisher of Total Food Service. Welcome, everybody.
Morning.
Okay,
Good morning.
well, we've said hello to the panel. We've said hello to the audience, and now it's time to say hello to the people who pay the bills here, our 2 sponsors. Sponsor number 1 is Produce Experience, the people who bring you the best, the finest in tropical produce, herbs, and salads. If you're looking for quality, look to Produce Experience. And the expense reduction analysts. There is gold in your balance sheets. There's gold in your purchase logs. If you want to find that gold, the people to look to is expense reduction analysts. Okay, we're here. This is the second try at the induction ceremony, and we are glad that everyone that is being inducted is here. We're going to touch on some interesting things about the people here. But first, let's talk about how you people got into the food service industry. What was your induction into the food service industry? And I'm going to start something a little different. Yvonne,
Yeah.
you have an interesting story how you decided food service was your place. What is it?
With the place that I currently have?
No, the how you got into food service when you were in high
Oh,
school. You
so
told
it's,
us a story about
I
that.
mean, I'll always remember it's Long Island City High School. It's a public school that in Long Island City, Queens. And at the time, I still remember there was like one of the first home ec culinary programs that the city was trying to I guess put into back into the system after they had stripped down home ec for so many years. So they built this beautiful kitchen and they had this culinary program, which I still remember to this day, was basically making chocolate chip cookies every single day. That's basically what anybody and everybody made. You made chocolate chip cookies and very basic things, but food really became like a part of that school. Forward to there was a radical change. There was really a paradigm shift when CCAP stepped into that school, and along with that came the French Classics at Home, a book that Mr. Grauson had written that basically had all these amazing culinary delights. So we went from making chocolate chip cookies to making coq au vin and beef bourguignon and these beautiful classical recipes that kids from Queens are like, what the hell is this? And like, this is crazy. But it really transformed the way that you thought about things. And all of a sudden people were talking about this, I don't know, this completely different gastronomic landscape that was this French food. And that's when I fell head over heels. I was like, this is crazy. And
Thank
that,
you. Thank you. You've had a different experience, Peter. How did you start in this business?
I'm going to say I was a typical 15-year-old looking for independence and needed money for a car so I could go out and have some fun. But it's funny, I'm first generation Cuban, so God forbid I ended up in the hospitality industry in the 70s and 80s. Who thought our industry would be where it was? I really ticked off everybody when I dropped out of Pace University in my junior year. And I just became, I was a waiter, I was a cook, and I just loved the business. And it helped me learn and interact with people. It was, I'm going to say, I didn't find it, it found me.
Okay. Choice.
So I ended up in the food service industry sort of by accident. I'm a picky eater, and I grew up in southern New Jersey on a chicken farm, and I really didn't know much about food. I went to Syracuse University for public relations and communications. And when I came out, my first job was at 17 Magazine doing public relations. One of the things that we did before I moved on from there was we introduced a cooking contest to join the other contests that were sports related, the tennis tournament of champions, the swim meet of champions. And we started a cooking contest for teenagers. I stayed in the publishing industry. I was a publicity manager for children's books at Del Dial, Delacorte, Doubleday. And I found my love of working with young people. I was then recruited to go into Sashin and Associates, the Roland Company, and I launched for Parker Brothers their books and music program. So I really wasn't in the food service for quite a while, until while I was at the Roland Company, they asked me if I'd like to join the Ronald McDonald program and work for the tri-state McDonald's owner-operators. And I was the only redhead in the room that really had red hair when I was working with the Ronalds. I managed them, and I found out the history, the importance of what McDonald's was doing at that time. The last thing I did with them, well, I opened the Ronald McDonald House with them out here. It was the 100th Ronald McDonald House on Long Island with Al Roker. And he also talked about food that day. Later, he became a part of the support team for Careers Through Culinary Arts program, which is where I spent 27 years after launching it with Richard Grousman. But having worked at McDonald's, one of the last things I did, because I was leaving, I was 9 months pregnant, I was going to Staten Island on a hot June day in a car with no air conditioning to deliver. McDonald's was introducing salads. They were ahead of their time. They were ahead of the curve. They had a vision. And that's one of the things that when I started working with Richard at CCAP, I also had some time working with a dietitian, and that's how I met Richard. I had hired him as a spokesperson to introduce Dorman's low-fat cheese. I found my love of cooking, my palate expanded. Richard, introduced us to the opportunities that could be out there. And so my world then became food service. And I tried to spread that to everyone that I was involved with from there.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, all of you started a few years ago. Okay. What changes do you see in the food industry? Yvonne and Peter, you both started at the bottom, and you're the, what is it? The food service American dream, the dishwasher turned CEO. Peter, what do you see different between 15-year-old Peter and 15-year-old Sam today and their goals and dreams?
It's funny. Our industry, we are at another level. And yes, we're under the microscope of so much now, but we're a force to be reckoned to. When I was a dishwasher at 15, I just needed the money, and I just wanted to help the chef, who's a sous chef, was a half hour to 45 minutes late. I just wanted to keep learning and growing, and I was curious. The exciting thing today is, and please don't misunderstand what I'm going to say to everybody on the panel. When I was growing up, food service was hospitals. It was cafeterias, different. Well, our fifth division in the next 5 years might be bigger. It looks like it's going to be bigger than the entire company. We're looking, we have 4 cafes. I would have never thought I would say a semi-organic cafe in a hospital. We're having 3 conversations with 3 other hospitals right now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most exciting time. The only thing I wish I was a little younger. At 61, I do get tired now. And this is such an exciting time. Look at today. Who would have thought? Because we can't meet, we are meeting virtually. It's such an exciting time. I wish I could have a crystal ball, but I wouldn't believe what our future is in hospitality, because one of our companies is only open 5 months a year, and it's a 7-figure company. It's a barbecue company. And what sets us apart, we have great food, but when somebody shows up to your house, good morning, Mr. Larry, nice to see you. My name is Peter. This is Patty. Paul and Perry will be taking care of you today. Has anything changed in your event? I have the 72-hour update. I've had people go, who are these people? We live in a very exciting time. The scary part is we're under the microscope because we are becoming one of the leading industries of the world.
Okay. So, Yvonne, not too far back, you were that high school kid learning to make chocolate chip cookies so you can bribe your teachers when you were late. Now you hire you. people just like you to work in your restaurant. Talk about the difference between you then and the yous that you're hiring now.
I'll try to keep it as positive as I can. I think maybe I see things a little bit different. I mean, I see them the same as Peter, but I also see them a little bit different, maybe because I'm more of a romantic or a dreamer. And I fell in love with cooking, and I fell in love with the history and the romance of it, and the beauty of like going to the farmer's market and holding a warm peach in your hand and like biting it as the sun is like peeking through the trees and speaking to the farmer. And that to me, it really blows my mind. That to me is some of the most beautiful moments that we can share on this earth, or sharing food with people, or like discovering a new recipe like that. That really is what drives me to stay in the industry. As you grow up and realize everything that comes with this huge iceberg that is, for example, a restaurant, and the tippy tip like of that iceberg is really the plating and the beauty and the artistry of culinary arts. But beneath that, the surface is really this huge kind of foundation of what you need in order for that to happen, and the exorbitant costs that are mounting to be able to do that. As a part being an artist and part being pragmatic and a businessman, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's very difficult to kind of understand everything that is required in order for you to paint. And maybe I'm just relating it too much to art, but a painter will basically go and you'll get a canvas and you'll paint and you'll put your artwork, and that's it. Like, to be able to have a restaurant where you cook or create drinks and serve and host people, it's very, very difficult. That I guess the cost of putting everything together, you have to put this huge show, this huge production that has to have high-end home finishes, and has to have the best of everything, because we're now accustomed to the best of everything. You can't go into a restaurant and go to the restroom and the tile is a little chipped. You're like, oh, these guys don't know how to take care of their stuff. So it's as Peter said again, the stakes are very, very high. Everybody wants, especially in New York, you want the best of the best. So when I'm hiring, the young kids are still like, I want to cook and I want to do this stuff. You try to encourage them and keep it as positive, because it is a wonderful industry. But now I understand those grumpy old chefs that I used to work for and why they were a little grumpier, because it's getting harder and harder to be able to create some magic. Was that positive enough?
Can't hear you, Larry.
Yeah.
Oh, I am charged. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I jump in here, Larry, for a second?
No, you can jump in because you were there.
Thank you. So Yvonne, you do keep the magic going by creating new dishes, by having your pop-up events like the wine and food pairing that I attended. That was beyond unbelievable, the level of what you delivered in the menu items. Could you tell everybody a little bit about the menu items that you had created? Do you remember? It was
I think it was a Beaujolais dinner that we did, and it's my background is French cooking. My background is classic French cooking, but I really love American produce and American seasons and everything that the United States produces. Even though right now it's super cold, so we're not getting a lot, but bounties of the sea, bounties of the land. So that dinner was a celebration of Beaujolais wines. So we did everything that we could pair with Beaujolais wine, which is right around the same time as Thanksgiving. So it was, fall flavors that were really extraordinary.
Interesting. And I don't want you to skip this, Yvonne. You didn't jump from high school to my kitchen. Describe the path you took to get there, and then everybody pull out your Google search, because most of these restaurants are gone. But
yeah,
go ahead.
Well, if before I say that, that's kind of one of my major points. Maybe New York City is ever evolving, ever changing, right? And nothing really lasts too long, which is beautiful unto itself. However, there's something to be said that there's not a lot of restaurants left from 10, 20 years ago. Like the cost of operating a restaurant at such high levels has become so staggering that even now we're an independent, like mom and pop. It's just my wife and I. It's the costs are so crazy, and every restaurant that I see now open up, and they're like, you know what, this build out cost $1 million. This build out cost $10 million. Like the minimum that you're looking, even to open a pizza place in New York City, is $1 million. It's $1 million, and I want you to consider this. It's $1 million to like renovate. If you want to do it right and beautiful, and you want to hire the architect, you want to hire the expediters and everybody to do a space correctly. If you wanted to do this, let's say you get a 10-year lease. At the same time, like your profit margins are going to be what, 15%? If you're lucky, maybe a little bit higher. How much money do you actually, right? How much money do you actually have to make to just recoup your $1 million? Like just to get it back. And then from there, you could start making a little bit of money. I think it becomes a little bit, people are getting very creative in the way that they kind of open restaurants now. And when I first started, I started a restaurant called La Caravelle, which is like old French restaurant. It was incredible. It was at the Shoreham Hotel. And I went on to work at different restaurants for different restaurant groups and I worked with Rocco Despirito at Union Pacific. I worked with Jack Torres at Union and Le Cirque at the time. And then, I worked with some great chefs. I worked with like Daniel Boulud, and I didn't work with Daniel Boulud, but I won a Daniel Boulud scholarship to actually attend Institut Bocuse in France. And then I worked with 2-star Michelin chefs over there. And then I came back and I worked with Tao Group, which is one of the largest restaurant groups in all of the world. And that's where I started learning about the numbers. And basically they would spend $10 million to open a restaurant. The creativity comes in outside money, lots of investors. But what people are doing now is you just partner up. You partner up with somebody that has a space. So if you have a hotel, for example, the hotel will give you a deal. They'll basically pay for the build out because the restaurant is considered an amenity. They're not looking to make any money on the place. So what they need is an amenity. John George just opened his new restaurant, 325. They spent around $10 million. They didn't spend the money. It's the building, the landlord of the building that is considering the restaurant an amenity because they're trying to get people back into the office. So the restaurant business, at least in New York City, as a whole, is becoming very, very unsustainable. It's not, the costs are so exorbitant that it becomes between the rent and payroll and obviously the rising cost of food, it becomes very, very hard to sustain this. Now as an independent operator, I noticed that. And I kind of wish, I guess, things were a little simpler.
Fred, you speak to these people and you speak to restaurateurs all over. Talk about what Yvonne just mentioned about these unsustainable costs of things in restaurants.
Well, I think the thing that I guess I look at the glass half full, but I'm not in the process of opening a restaurant right now. And to me, I think there's more real estate opportunity than there's ever been before. I think the amount of what Amazon has done to Main Street in general in life has made a restaurant, a bank. There are very few operations anymore that make sense and have any kind of sustainability or need on Main Street. So I think that opportunities come with it. I think at the same time, we're in the process of redefining what hospitality is, meaning as minimum wage continues to grow, what does the definition of hospitality look like? Are we actually going to afford to pay a busboy $20-something an hour? Or are we going to have to look at robotics? Or we're going to have to look at self-serve, et cetera? And then if you go to somebody like Mr. Flanagan and you look at some of the options in terms of how to save money with what you're doing, I think you need to change how you look at running these businesses. What I do agree with is, Like, for instance, I sent you that note about in the city of Boston the other day about what's going on with liquor licenses. I mean, there are certain structural things from a build out relative to what you need in terms of licensing and permits that have become very difficult and challenging to overcome.
Yeah.
So, I think it's how do you look at life right now? Is the glass half empty? Is it half full? It's very hard when you're in the middle of the build out. It's very easy when you're sitting in my chair and looking at it. So I appreciate both pieces of it.
Talking about build outs, Peter, you've been doing a project that I think the Great Pyramid was built faster than what you're going through. Explain some of what, talk about build outs.
Hey, Yvonne, I feel your pain. I feel your pain. I do. I am the half full glass, and it's enough for me because I get to be an artist, a director, and I make a good living. Most artists don't. We make a good living. I have worked with my family. My wife and my daughters have learned and grown, and they've gone on to other careers. But I was part of their life as being a restaurateur caterer, and they all found different niches. But to the construction point, after we planned the construction of a 15,000 square foot building. I've added 2 buildings to it, so it started at 10, but it's been a 35-year project. I bought the building 34 years ago. And it's the sub basement had blacktop and one little walk-in, 10 by 10. It is now a commissary that holds 28 people, a hot kitchen, a cold kitchen, 2 freezers, 3 walk-ins, redundancy, a loading dock where a truck comes in. But just at the beginning of COVID, we were about to do a renovation of the building and of the restaurant and offices, take it to the next level to make the banquet hall and the whole building more flexible, better Wi-Fi, better technology, have 65-inch monitor TVs that during the day have Starry Night or whatever. But if you're one of our catering clients, for $75 a meeting, or have 2 events with us, and we comp it, this is a 65-inch monitor TV. There's no AV to break. So we were going to start in first quarter 2020. You know what? Everyone, you walk into a room and it just don't feel right. It didn't feel right in January and February of 2020. We held off. Greatest thing that ever happened to me. I had 2 more years of planning. I've learned so much. COVID was, I hate to say it, what a learning experience. The booths are higher. We change windows. We actually don't need HVAC, which has lowered our costs tremendously. Certain times a year, I just open up the top or the bottom of 9 6-foot windows. We're still having problems. We're redoing a section, and we've had collapses of walls. But with the right attitude, even the city inspector looked at me and goes, "God bless you, get it done," and he walked away. Because we have the insurance, right? We have the insurance. We're doing all the right things. But Ivana, I do want to comment. I agree with you. It's a very, very difficult time. But because I've been able to invest into the real estate with the restaurateur and hospitality mind, I never thought I'd turn a sub-basement, 5,000 square foot sub-basement, it's 2 levels below grade, into an incredible commissary. And it was nickel and diming over 30 years. I don't want to mention the hospital. Well, I will. Montefiore Hospital in White Plains believed in our, it was a consulting job that we did for them, and we handed them the blueprints to a semi-organic cafe. By the way, they've done the build out. We give them 10% back. Last year was over $129,000 for 3 cafes that together are 1,265 square feet. That's $1,000 a square foot. We give them a 10% courtesy. So to Fred's point, there's some great opportunities in real estate. But remember, we're the directors. Our food, our staff, and I hate to say it, there's a lot of places on Broadway that are not the greatest theaters, but they're cool looking. and maybe not the greatest areas, but we all go there. Restaurants, cafes, breweries, we draw people. They want to come see the show. It's amazing how much people love our business. The hard part is we're artists and we have to be CFOs. Forget about being the bookkeeper today. Forget about being the controller.
Yeah.
Forget about the accountant. We need to be CFOs. I will tell you, it's amazing though. I started with 17 staff members. Pre-COVID, 142. And I'm a double college dropout. I love this industry. I've gotten beaten up so much at times. I've been on my hands and knees. And I don't say this because one of my daughters is on the line, but when they all worked so hard to go to college, and they started going to college in 2009. Remember that lovely time, everybody?
Yeah.
I got through it. The girls were there. We all learned and worked together. Construction is brutal, but if you own the real estate or you have a good relationship, as Fred was saying, it's amazing the value that we bring to properties.
100%. Yeah.
We just don't value ourselves as much as other people.
Yeah. Well put.
Sorry. Larry?
Karen Goodlad, please unmute yourself. Hi,
Hey,
Karen.
everybody.
Karen, tell everybody who you are. And you made a comment before about education. Now, I know all three of these people that we're honoring are very, very strong on education. Please bring that out to the group.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My name is Karen Goodlad, and I am the chairperson of the Department of Hospitality Management at New York City College of Technology. We are the lead hospitality program with the City University of New York. My goodness, education. So I heard you double dropout, right? So many times students maybe are just in the wrong place, right? So many students at City Tech, which has a heavy culinary and pastry aspect, but is truly a hospitality management program. They come to us and they like, I never realized I was good at school or I was smart, because what we're doing is hands-on experiential learning. They're in the kitchens and, for the first time in this professional kitchen environment. So a lot of our students do come from Long Island City High School. So, 3 cheers to Yvonne there. Yep. And we have a collaboration coming out with Food Education Fund and Food and Finance High School. We were just recently at the STEAM Center at the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and we're really excited about what the DOE is offering high school students. In 2 weeks during the fall break, we are having a program with CCAP, so shout out Joyce for helping get that underway, where we will welcome 15 high school students, and they will have skills training in culinary and pastry. They'll have a mini etiquette lesson in the Janet Leffler dining room. I'll be doing that. And then they'll have a sit down and be able to talk with other graduates of City Tech who are also CCAP graduates as well. So
Okay,
thank you.
Let's run with this. I know Peter and Yvonne, you guys are constant education to your staffs because it's the only way. I mean, 15 years ago, what was Wi-Fi? What was a POS system? What was, what were these things? They didn't exist. Talk about some education. Yvonne, talk about constant education in your small group.
I mean, I'll start every single person, every kid, let's say, that we've taken on, and I think everybody that has a place can agree with this. It's not just the education of the culinary skills or the responsibilities that you need to do. Like all these kids that naturally, and in my experience, I mean, I'll just say in my experience, these kids for the most part don't have a great home life. They don't have a lot of direction. Probably like myself, are very, very ADD. Couldn't sit down and just learn about something that they didn't want to learn about. It's very, very difficult, even for me nowadays, to focus. Like when I'm sitting down and looking at a P&L, I'm like, I don't want to look at this. I don't want to look at this. But you're like, you have to look at this and you have to focus and you have to pay attention. But the thing is, like, if you're not, and this is applicable to all of us on this call, if you don't like what you're doing, it becomes very, very difficult to focus. Now take these kids that are, don't have a great home life. God knows what they're going through. And now you're going to sit them and you're going to teach them about some history. And they're like, this is stupid. Why am I learning? So then they're distracted and they're doing something else. And they're kids and they're, they're doing what they need to do. So when these kids come to cooking and you engage them and they like what they're doing, they turn into completely different people. But they're still kids. I can't tell you, it's literally split down the middle, 50%. The times that I've sat down with like young employees where I'm telling them, you're cutting this wrong, or you're not doing this right, or you're not organizing yourself well. And it's more a conversation about their life. And it's more a conversation of what is happening to you outside of here that is causing you not to be able to focus. Why are you arriving late every single day? Why are you in such a bad mood? Whatever it is. And it has nothing to do with the job. It has everything to do with everything outside of the job. And we become really mentors. And so like, I can, there's not one kid that I haven't hired that hasn't ended up bawling in my arms because of something. And then fast forward to a couple of years later, and you see these kids, and Joyce and Richard and like everybody that's on this call could probably attest to this, all that we turn into teachers. Like, my mom's a teacher, my aunt's a teacher. And I was like, why did you guys get into that career? It seems so hard. And then I realized my job, and I'm like, it's kind of the same thing. Like you're doing exactly the same thing, but, and with kids that most times are a little troubled, so you're helping them get through life and helping them learn how to cook kind of simultaneously. But then fast forward, and I see the kids that I've mentored and worked with and trained, that sometimes you want to just like throw them out a window, but then you breathe and you say, that's illegal, you can't do that. And then fast forward a couple of years later, and you see these kids turn into like these upstanding teachers and people, and now they're training other people. And you're like, okay, maybe I don't know how great I'm doing at life, but at least that kid turned out okay, and I mentored him, and now he's mentoring somebody else. So the education isn't just about the culinary skills. It's really like an emotional, and you're teaching these kids to be good people, hardworking citizens of our society.
Yes, I agree 100%. It's very interesting when kids that feel alone and isolated are brought into a group where they now understand that they belong here, that they're part of a team, and that they're people who actually have their back. Peter, your staff is basically like walking into the UN General Assembly with different languages, different origins, different customs. You've told many stories about Peter and your UN role. Please expand on
that. And let me just clarify one thing, Karen. I did 4 years of college, Westchester Community College and Pace University. The marketing, the accounting, communications. I was just an assistant manager in a restaurant, 50 hours a week. I was either late, fell asleep to a third or 50% of my classes. My education was phenomenal. Yvonne hit it right on the head. I'm 60-ish, and dyslexia, ADD, OCD, nothing was categorizable or defined yet. So I'm the biggest proponent of education, but also with the work. Yvonne, we make a difference, by the way. I'm sorry. There's so many industries that are just in it for the money. When people want to complain about society, most of the hospitality, let's not do a blanket here. Most of hospitality, we're part of the solution. We're not part of the problem. In my world, New York Hospitality Group, yeah, we have so many different languages. And you know what the toughest part is? And somebody tag me if I go inappropriate. I'm Cuban, first generation American. And in the 60s and 70s, let's just say a communistic Latino, there was a 4-letter word for us and it wasn't good. I got beat up, thrown out of homes. It was okay. I learned. I wasn't happy then. We have so many different nationalities and languages, and we accept everybody. And the funny thing is, yo hablo español, yo soy cubano. I'm Cuban, I speak Spanish. Do you know how many people look at us? Yeah, but you look like an old Jewish man. How did that happen? In 50 years, I went from, I don't want to say the word, to now. And it's funny. I'll catch staff speaking English, and I accept it. But in English, I said, please don't make our customers feel uncomfortable or other employees. When you're alone, it's hysterical. I turn around in Spanish, they say, that American is racist. I turn, I look at them, I said, which American is racist to you? And they look at me and go, huh? No, the other guy. Okay, because you understand Spanish? No, I'm Cuban. My mother would kill me if she heard me speak as bad as I'm speaking now. How many people don't have, to Yvonne's point, we got to meet our staff where they are. Just because we don't understand what they've gone through, God bless, I don't have that dysfunctional situation at home. Or I suspended a kid because he got an F on a test. And he says to me, you don't understand, Latinos aren't good in science. Take it easy, buddy. I suspended him. His mother calls me up because she needs the income. I said, I'll make you a deal. I think you raised a better boy than a young man than this. And he can have his job back if he gets a B. You want to laugh? He went to the professor. It was at high school. Can I take the test again? My boss suspended me. By the way, it's a lawsuit waiting. He goes, I've studied. He came back with a B. Funny. I gave him his job back. But we have Indians, we have so many different nationalities. And they are part of New York hospitality family. If we meet our staff where they are, I agree with everybody on this call. If you look in the newspaper, everybody's driving a Ferrari and they don't have a Ferrari. It's difficult to see where I am to where you are. How do I get there? And everybody is disenfranchised. Everybody. Yeah. And it's, so I will tell you, everybody says, you know, it's strange here. Well, we're a professional family. We're going to have discussions. We're going to be professional. That's the difference with your family in here. We have a job to do. You don't know me personally, but you know me professionally. Do you understand what my job is? And to Yvonne's point, I look at them, I have an Oxford shirt on, a sweater, wool pants on. And they laugh and say certain things. They've called me brother. The third time they call me brother, and it's usually with the senior manager, I tell the manager, give me 1 second. Young man, you've called me brother. I apologize if I'm going to offend anybody. Do you believe in Jesus Christ as your only savior? They look at me and go, what? Yeah, we are brothers of the same father. I'm good. But if not, don't disrespect my mother or don't disrespect your mother. I will tell you, Yvonne, the light goes off and they look at me and go, oh, you're right. So, and I ask them, let's go play ball. I got the leather shoes on, wool pants, right? Are you laughing at me because my nationality, my gender? No, because I don't know the rules of the game and I chose not to. I just want to play the game. So I agree with you, Yvonne. We're an inclusive family in our company. We have disagreements and we define success differently. But what I tell everybody, this is not a winner game. This is not a win or lose game, because then you win, I lose. If it's success, we all win together. And getting to the top of the mountain by yourself, it's lonely up there.
Yep.
If you can have a party and take pictures, we're going to relive that memory for the rest of our lives. So it's great to be that inclusive.
Thank you.
And what you said, this is the game of life. And you need to be led and mentored. It's not enough anymore to what Richard, his mottos always in 1990, when he started CCAP, was very minimal. was to show up on time, to use a mop, be able to pick up a mop and do that, and have a good attitude.
Yes, yes.
And unfortunately today, young people have to be up at a higher standard. They have to know more. They have to be able to learn more, and they can't do it on their own. That's what we're finding out. And I think Karen Goodlad at City Tech will say exactly the same thing. The generation today, I mean, we all came from the we generation. We now have the me generation. And we've lost that capacity in between for the young people, the millennials and the Gen Z, who are tied to their phones all day long. I mean, you're lucky you can have them come into work and put the phone down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're going to have a breakdown because they're not connected to the phones.
Yes.
So you're also dealing with what's going on around the country for mental illness and how to deal with that. You know, through CCAP, we have a young man, well, he's an adult now, Brother Luck, who talks about having difficulties, you know, and the troubling life he had, and going through, you know, stopping drinking and stopping the partying, because that's something that goes on with this industry, you know, having fun while you're working. So I think, you know, you've all touched on the professionalism, the business of the industry. You know, I believe it all comes back to education for young people in the industry, as well as those people in the industry for a long time who have to retool.
I agree. I agree. And Joyce and panel, thank you very, very much. You know, a lot of good things, I mean, a lot of bad things are said about the food service industry. And, you know, it is an industry that has been fueled by waves of immigration. You know, in the early 1900s, it was our grandparents that came in from Eastern Europe, and then later in Italy, and then in the 60s and 70s, it was the Cubans and people that were avoiding communist oppression that came over. And, you know, then the families like Yvonne's that came over to find a better life. And now we have the problem with immigration. Well, those will be the people that are coming over now. There is no industry like food service that gives a know-nothing person who wants to work an opportunity like food service. Use Peter as an example, from dishwasher to CEO Why? Because he wanted to learn, he wanted to work, and he had the drive and the smarts. Who knows who's walking in there now? So it's that time that we have to say, it's time to wrap it up and give our last takeaway thought. Peter, why don't you start?
I can't thank everybody on the call enough for the energy, the knowledge, the experiences that you've all shared in the last year. I love our industry. I love the ups and downs. I believe we truly are part of the solution and not part of the problem. And I probably have worked too much, but I love listening to everybody's stories. We are kindred spirits. We may be in our own little worlds, but we all have the same experiences. And catch us all on a different day, depending if it's a good day or a bad day, is our perspective. And I don't know how to say this, but I love you all. Thank you for sharing your experiences, your lives, your successes and your failures, because we all grow from it.
Okay, thank you. Joyce.
So I want to thank Larry and Fred for providing the opportunity through the virtual breakfast session to discuss topics of interest and of value to our community, our food service community. And I believe that through this, we will be able to share more information. I believe that we must continue to support education and most of all, mentoring young people and professionals in the industry.
Thank you. Thank you. Yvonne.
I heard this recently, and I thought about it for a little bit, but I read that you should always do the hard thing. And I'll apply it just to cooking. And I think it's very easy nowadays, kind of to touch on what everybody said before about this social media engagement, making people disconnect from their phones. Cooking has this ability to kind of slow things down sometimes when you're creating something from scratch. And sometimes you think like, I want some pasta, and it's easy to reach for the dried pasta in the cabinet because it's easy to get from A to B. But when you go through the process of like, I want to make pasta, and you source the ingredients and you read about how to make pasta and you see different recipes, and then you go through the process of making it and making it wrong or messing up or whatever it is. And at the end of it, you have this plate of pasta and you eat it, and it's just pasta. It's the same, it's the same ingredients, but it's the process that really changes you and colors your life so much brighter. So if by doing the hard thing, you're creating, you're showing up, you're engaging, you're creating something, and that has the ability to really change your life. Doing the hard thing and walking the path. It's been incredible for me, and I recommend everybody do it. That's why I love cooking, and I'll continue to do it. And I agree with everyone. It's, I think it's the most wonderful industry on earth.
Okay. Fred, you've been very, very quiet today.
I think when you share the platform with this many people who are smarter than you are, I think you learn to listen. So I think it was a great session, and I think it's encouraging to look at the opportunities that lie ahead.
Yeah.
Amen.
Thank you all. I have grown in the last, since we started. I mean, Fred and I, the virtual breakfast session existed as a prospecting tool before June of 2020, when Fred and I started working together on this. And it became a broadcast of information, and with our audience peppering us with questions, it became a broadcast of information that the audience wanted to hear, not necessarily what we wanted to say. But I'll tell you one thing: after our first few broadcasts, I went to Fred and said, we're going to need a lot of help doing this, because neither of us knew how to do a podcast. And it was these three people that you see in front of you today, Joyce Appelman, Peter Herrero, and Yvonne Lemoine, that stepped in to pick us up when we fell, to boost the experience, whether it be from on the panel or in the audience. They were there to help us. They never let us fall. And because of that, we chose those three people as the 2023 first class of our virtual breakfast session Hall of Fame. And I'd like to applaud your help, because without them, we wouldn't be here. So thank you all.
Our pleasure.
Amen.
Our pleasure, Larry.
Thank you, Larry,
Thank you, guys.
and Fred and Joyce and everyone.
Yes, and just a couple more things. We're going to be back in 2 weeks, so look for the invitations. Another topic, I don't have it in front of me right now, and I'm an old man and I can't remember stuff, so next time I'll write it down. Second of all, I want to thank our sponsors. Expense reduction analysts and the gold they find in your balance sheet, and Produce Experience, who deliver fine herbs, salads, and tropical produce to the tables of the restaurants of New York City area. And two more things. I want you all to stay positive, test negative, See you in 2 weeks.
Amen.
Bye now.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good day, everyone.
Great day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you for being there.